Annyeonghaseyo to everyone, and welcome to the third video for Little Family in Korea. I'm doing this one solo because it's a weekday. We didn't get to record our video last week, and because we were so busy setting up our apartment. So in this video, we're going to talk about a couple of things. First thing is that we've seen some other Americans and other foreigners now in Korea, and it has been very interesting how they react to us. Um, Another thing that I'm going to talk about briefly is that I'm no longer at the original campus that I was assigned to. I've been moved to the other campus for the school, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later. And then also, we finally had our first day of classes, so I'm going to talk briefly about what that was like. So, to start off, we have seen several Americans, or at least they acted and talked like Americans did when we saw them. And for some reason, it seems like if you're a foreigner and you've been here for a while and you have come across another foreigner, the thing that you're supposed to do is quickly avoid all eye contact and any communication. Every American or foreign person that we have run into, and I don't know if it's just because we have kids and they're like, oh, I don't want to be involved with those people because they have children, but every single one that we've run into has either done one of two things: completely ignored us like we did not exist, or quickly gone the other way so that they didn't have to pretend to ignore us. And, it's a little disheartening because honestly, the Korean people here have been more welcoming than the foreigners have. You would think that if you're a foreigner in a land where you're kind of the minority, when you see somebody else that is a minority, you would want to communicate with them. At least that's what, I thought, that's what my family thought, but apparently that's not the case. Um, 5 or 6 times now we've run into foreigners, and each and every time the response is the same. They want nothing to do with us. So, unfortunately, I think some of the preconceptions that the world has about foreigners being very unwelcoming and rude are being confirmed in other countries because people are unwelcoming and rude to their own people. A little bit sad, but it is what it is. I guess, if people have been living over here for a while, they may not want to associate with new foreigners because they may seem like they're not trying to adapt, I guess. I don't know. Um, so, on to the second item, and that is that I've been moved from the Seoul campus to the Suji campus, which is very close to where we live. Um, Long story short, essentially what happened is the founder of the school decided to contact me the second day that I had started work and asked me about moving there because they had a position that they were having trouble filling. And because the school is not directly in downtown Seoul, it's harder for them to fill that position. So he asked me if I was interested in it, and I told him basically that if the school needed me there more than it did at the campus I was at, then I was open to do whatever the school needed. So he proceeded to tell the employees that I was coming there, and it kind of went back and forth because the campus I was at didn't want to lose me, and the campus that he had recommended I go to really wanted me. And they came to a point where they said, we want you to decide. You decide what you feel is best. And after discussing it with my family and looking at the amount of students that I could impact, I decided to move to the campus that's closer to here because I have roughly almost 85 to 90 students that I'll be teaching now versus at the other campus it was only about 20. So for me as a teacher doing this for 10 years, I always try to find the group that I can make the largest impact on. So I am now teaching instead of 7, 8, and 9, I'm teaching 9 and 10 grade students, and I'm teaching them biology and earth science mainly with a little bit of other things mixed in. So that's where I am at. First day of school, our third item, happened today, and it was overall a very positive experience. The kids, amazingly, did not learn the way that I would have expected. And I guess that's just because for me, I've always been a hands on type of person. I teach everything hands on. It's a lot of experiments, a lot of the students coming up with answers and giving it back to me, that kind of stuff. And These guys had never experienced anything like that. The first three classes that I had, I actually asked how many of them had actually conducted an experiment before. And in the first three classes, a total of 6 students out of roughly 40 had done an experiment. The last class was a little more, but I think that's because that class seems to have students who have attended the school longer and have also been in international schools outside of the school I'm in right now. In that class, only about 4 of them had not. So if you get down to the numbers, it looks like less than half of them have conducted experiments before. And many of them didn't even know that research is considered to be a part of the scientific inquiry. We had to cover, the fact that researching and experiments are the two methods that are most widely accepted as a part of the scientific inquiry to answer your question and come up with a hypothesis. Most of them are actually really happy with the fact that they're not using their textbooks anymore. Up until this point, apparently, that's what they were doing, reading the textbook, memorizing it, and that was science. So I told them today to put the textbook underneath the desk, and we went over a couple of terms with them, basically coming up with a definition for the term. To my students back in the US, you know what that means. I put a term on the board. You guys kind of discuss it back and forth. You look it up on the internet to see if your definition is correct, and then we put it on the board, and everyone will kind of copy that down to have that for future reference. And so a lot of them had never done that before. They expected me to give them the definition, or they expected to read it out of the book. Them coming up with it was something completely new, but they seemed to be enjoying it quite a bit. As a matter of fact, some of them were very thankful that they didn't have to read the entire period. They also wanted to get to know me and my family a lot, so we talked for the last 5 or 10 minutes about what was going on there. And overall, it was a pretty positive experience. I think that tomorrow is going to be even more exciting because they're actually going to be discussing some stuff that we talked about today. So that's going to be interesting for them, I think. Otherwise, we are doing well. We finally have our apartment set up, and that is, I think, it for today. I do want to say a little something to my students back in America who went to the Science Olympiad competition. Congratulations, guys. I heard some of you placed third, and that makes me extremely happy and proud. Good job. Goodbye, and see you next time.